Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Hired a call girl for an afternoon some time ago. Treat her nicely and decently during the time we spent together. Apparently she was so used to being treated like shit for being a working girl that my polite, quiet, non-judging, if a bit weird to some, because I know that I am not a very expressive person, demeanor. Even for the relatively small amount of time we spent together. It shines as brightly as the sun. Afternoon is over. Pay her dues, drop her off downtown, get on with my life. After 2 days, she contacted me through WhatsApp. Later that same day, she added me on Facebook. We talk a lot over the next week. Never about business, she's quite a decent conversationalist. Stop thinking with my second brain. And realize she not only found out my real phone number. I have 2 phones, each one with a SIM card. The cheap, shitty one is used for mongering and shenanigans. The other for family and work, study. I don't want my niece asking to play on my phone and stumbling upon photos. Conversations with call girls. But she also found out my real name. Get more reticent when conversing with her. She apparently notices this. And her next step is to show up at my workplace and start conversations under the guise of doing research for college essays. I work at a government organ responsible equivalent of the U.S. Census Bureau in my country. So I'm basically ordered by law to give in and talk to her as long as the talk remains in the professional realm. Colleagues notice her weekly, nearly daily presence and joke about my girlfriend when she leaves. After a while, things get even weirder. I swear she found out where I live. Never had hard evidence. But sometimes I'd arrive home to a very faint smell of perfume hanging in the air, or things seemingly out of place. That Saturday, I called her and asked to meet her in a bar for lunch, near where I first dropped her off downtown. Spend another afternoon with her setting things straight. 3 hours of exasperation, tears, mild yelling and drinks and snacks to keep the barkeeper from kicking us out. Things are resolved. She basically admits to stalking me for not being a rude, crass, rough piece of shit. Why thank you. PNG gets quiet when I mention perceived disturbances in my house, which I interpret as an admission of guilt. Drop her off at her home, go to mine. She still showed up to my work unexpectedly a couple of times. But that was dealt with quickly. Still keep contact with her after all that. She's a decent person on her own and quite fun to talk with. TLDR. Anon gets briefly stalked by a working girl.
This happened about 3 years ago. Meet friend of friends. Seemed like an okay guy, music and video in common. Asked me out on a date, compassionately but absolutely rejected him in the clearest terms. He said he was happy being friends regardless. Started being weird about things. Would actively try to stop me from doing things other than hanging out or speaking to or playing video games with him. Told him that shit wasn't okay and ended the friendship. Guy starts posting on mutual friends' Facebook pages about how I'm mentally unstable and abuse prescription drugs. Jokes about strangling me if I attend their wedding. Block him everywhere because I'd rather not have to see those things. Get home from work on my birthday, he left a bunch of PS3 games on my porch. I never told him where I live and our mutual friends didn't know either. Don't engage him and just throw them out. Months pass and nothing, pretty relieved. One night I'm heading to a friend's house for dinner all the way across the other side of the city I live in. Stop at the supermarket to grab something to bring to dinner. Get out to the parking lot, parked pretty far out. Walk towards the car and see someone stand up and walk away from my car quickly. Get to the car, there's a pair of side cutters on the ground next to the wheel. Get to a friend's house, check the phone. I have an email from a stalker saying,
"It was so good to see you again. Now I can die in peace."
My face when.
So I am currently a beauty school student. At my school there was this girl. We'll call her CH. She's average height, fat, half-shaved, poorly cut, green hair. Quite nosy and overall annoying. I can't help but be nice because at the time I had no real reason to be mean. I met a guy on Tinder and we start talking. He tells me he's on a YouTube channel with some friends and I go and save one of their videos to watch later. Next day at school, I'm watching the video in the break room and this girl is watching over my shoulder. She gets up and is just like, oh, I know them. They're my friends. I made the mistake of telling her that I was talking to and interested in one guy. I'll call him, as she would not stop talking about as she claimed she dated him. Claimed to basically be the expert on it, but didn't want me to tell him what she had been saying about him. I kept it to myself until I started dating. I told all the things she said about him and he told me everything she said was completely wrong, and even had proof of some of the things. He told me that him and her had a thing in high school, but she only liked him to use him to cheat on her ex-fiancé. The next day in class, I told her I wanted her to stop talking about him. She agrees. Not but an hour later, this girl is talking about him to a friend of mine who of course is going to tell me. I refused to tell her twice and told my boyfriend, who texted her and told her to fuck off. She moves her things away from my station. I invited it into the school salon to cut his hair. While I was cutting it, he suddenly jerked his head away and looked out the window. CH is walking around his car. We don't know what the hell she's doing, but we should have checked then and there. We later find out that she keyed his car. On another occasion that I had it in my salon chair, she tells the front desk girl to watch her car. Guilty much? I finish the haircut, and leaves. I'm sitting at the front desk and suddenly CH's boyfriend rolls up to the front curb, looks dead at me and drives off. I had a feeling he was looking for A's car. Multiple people have been telling me that she has started to show up to the house that A and his friends stream videos at. She used to hardly ever be there until he and I started dating. I has since left the channel because he doesn't want to be around her. His friends only like CH's boyfriend, but she feels the need to always show up. She's since been showing up nearly everywhere we go. And her antics have gotten worse. She changed all her social media bios to the exact same things as mine. Started dressing like me. Almost all of her online posts are about me. She's even gone as far as to claim the same ethnicity as me. Like it was obvious she was obsessed with it, but now she's become obsessed with me. Other people in my school tell me she won't stop talking about me. She drives a green punch buggy with distinct stickers on it, and I recognize her license plate. I was driving home and in my neighborhood I saw a green buggy sitting off towards some trees. Of course it's her. And I were chilling in his room and he had the window open. Who comes driving down the road? She does. And I went to a nightclub. Who's there? She is. And I were gonna go with a friend because they wanted to get some tattoos finished. And I couldn't go. But the friend went on his own. He told us that wherever he went, he saw her there. At school she's been accusing me of doing all sorts of things to her, trying to get me in trouble. I have let our school administration know what's been going on. This shit's still been ongoing and I saw her drive past my house today.
I had a girl like this in high school. Thankfully not to this extent, but we had similar names, and after changing almost everything about herself in an attempt to look like me, she started telling people that my name was her real name on her birth certificate and demanded that everyone called her by it. She used to 8-ounce. I also had another friend years ago who got the same kind of fixation, changed her name on Facebook to mine, used one of my pictures as her profile picture and asked to stay over at my place one weekend. Left a month later and always tried to sleep in my bed. We stopped being friends after she went to France and accused me of sleeping with her ex-boyfriend. I didn't. Showed up at my house crying after I told her I didn't want anything to do with her anymore.
Crazy that shit's happened to you twice.
She did. It was so weird. I was at her house one day and I saw her pick something up and put it in her mouth. I stared because, what? She did it again. Picked an ant up off the floor and put it in her mouth. 3 times. I posted a story about the weirdo who joked about strangling me to death if I went to our mutual friend's wedding. I wish Crazy wouldn't follow me around. I'm literally a shut-in now.
I don't know, this is my first time handling Crazy. She hasn't approached me outside of school. She got in my face one day at school and I ended up telling her that outside of school she's a threat, and I'll treat her like a threat. I told her multiple times to leave me alone. The girl I'm posting about did something a little similar. We had a contest to see who could do a set of highlights and lowlights the fastest. Instead of real hair color we used chocolate and vanilla pudding. 2 girls. Both work on farms, get dirty, and were told not to wash their hair since we were gonna wash it for them after the competition. Volunteered. After the competition, CH decides to lick the color brush that had been in this girl's dirty hair. Did you go to the friend's wedding or stay home?
Gross. I didn't go to my friend's wedding. I wasn't really all that terrified of the guy, just had little patience for the annoyance that it was, and I was not interested in doing anything that his weird mind could possibly interpret as encouragement. The only times I was a little spooked. When he found out where I lived and when he followed me to that supermarket. Don't know what he thought he was going to do with those side cutters. Kind of wish I went to my friend's wedding though. I looked through the photos and he was wearing a fedora and a trench coat. Heck. The only advice I can kind of give you for deal with crazy is to not engage. Ignore her existence entirely. If her harassment efforts increase once you do, document everything and go to the cops. I'm pretty certain that she's getting off to getting to you in any way.
This is currently happening to me and it's probably more uncomfortable than anything and a massive hassle because it's at my work. But oh well. Mid-20s, female, work at a coffee shop trope embodiment. This one regular is homeless and a super friendly dude. He'll talk to everyone for an hour even if they don't want to talk. Usually I get there at 4:30 a.m. to open and I'm a daily opener. Coworkers had told me that sometimes he wanders around behind the building where we park in the middle of the night. Think they're pulling my leg because that's fucking weird. Alone and waiting for my other coworkers to arrive one morning. Look in rearview mirror and he's standing and staring at my car. Just stands and watches my car for a good 5 minutes before my boss pulls in. He didn't actually come into the shop that day and I don't see him for a week. So forget about it. Opening about 2 weeks later and unlock doors right at 5 a.m. Walking away from the door to brew more coffee when I hear something slamming on the glass. Look back and he's just standing there, staring. He waves and then vanishes, without coming in despite the fact we're open. Freak the hell out, but my coworker jokes and says,
"Don't worry, there's only one of him and 3 of us."
I mean, I'm sure the guy isn't trying to be creepy or anything, but I'll see him at the grocery store and he'll follow me around, talking at me while I'm late for another job or something and can't stand and talk. And then if I'm talking to another customer, he'll just stand there and loudly scold me for not saying good morning to him. Even though I'm with another customer. He's super passive-aggressive with it and I honestly hate the guy. A few months ago, he asked me how my dad was doing and if he was going to get out of the hospital anytime soon. I'd never mentioned my dad being in the hospital to anyone at work.
I met a girl on OKCupid, but she lives about 3 hours away. We go on one date and I am just not feeling it. So later that night when she texts me about a second date, I tell her that I think she's nice and very pretty, but there's no chemistry and we have nothing in common. She asks if we can at least be friends. And I say sure. I mean, I enjoyed hanging out with her. And she was an easy 8, would be a 9 if we went somewhere fancy. But there was no spark. So, fast forward about 3 months, she texts me daily and flirts a bit too much, but if I say anything she accuses me of taking her too seriously. And that she's only playing around. Well, one of my best friends dies from complications related to his diabetes, and I mentioned that I'm going to this hidden little beach on the Chesapeake that I go to anytime someone I care about dies. It's in my grandmother's neighborhood and I've been going there since she died. This chick tells me I shouldn't be alone and asks if she can come along. I'm numb. I don't give a F. I say sure, whatever. So she comes along and lays down next to me on the beach on my blanket and her left arm and leg are pressed against my right. And we lay there in silence under the stars for 3 hours not saying a word. We part ways. She drives home. I drive home. I go to bed. Next morning I see her Facebook status has changed to in a relationship. I silently praise all pantheons everywhere. Because now she's off my dick. I post on her wall, "Congratulations, who is the lucky guy? Anyone I know?" And she replies,
Haha, very cute, babe.
She flips her shit. She calls me all kinds of fucked up names, telling me I'm a coward for going back on last night, and it was bad enough I was too much of a coward to ask her to come to the beach to look at the stars, and made up some story about a friend dying, but now this is really low. Finally giving her a chance, then taking it away. Etc, etc, etc. So I blocked her. That made it worse. She created Facebook after Facebook to harass me and call me a coward piece of shit. Then every account I have on every website she starts harassing me to the point where I just delete them all. A week later and all is quiet. Until I go to leave for work and my tires are slashed. So I call out of work. A few hours later there's a banging at my door. It's my mailman telling me, frantically, that I must go to the mailbox right away. I go down to the box. And there's a dead, decapitated bird. A week later. A pig's heart. And my truck was keyed all to shit. I called the police, filed a report. They coordinated with the police in her state, and she told them that it would be insane to drive 6 hours round trip to do that shit, and turned on the waterworks and said I probably did it myself because she wouldn't talk to me anymore, so I'm just trying to cause her trouble. My local police department tells me what she said and that her police department believes her, so if I make another call about her, she will be able to press charges on me for harassment and slander. So I moved, changed my number, and even sold my truck and bought a new car. All is well at my new place. No trouble at all. Then I get a weird call from HR at work about a location that the manager put in a request for my home address and phone number, claiming that I interviewed with her to transfer to her location, but she misplaced my info and she'd really like to get in touch with me because I interviewed so well. HR, however, knew I had just transferred to a new location, so they thought something might be up. I told them I was not transferring again, and the only person I knew in that area is someone I never want to see again. I heard from the district manager that she got fired over that when I confirmed that it was definitely her. Now, 2 years and no contact at all. She's dating and living with a polyamorous couple I'm friends with, and they have started to turn on me because I tried to warn them that she's only with them to get to me, and she's telling them that I'm obsessed with her and stalking her. So now I'm praying she doesn't find out where I live from them. Just knowing she's only 30 miles away now worries me.
I started dating a girl in high school. She's easily the most attractive girl in our school. Our relationship extends into me going to college. We eventually have issues and break up. This entire time I was getting random messages from Facebook accounts telling me I didn't have a chance with her and I was going to lose her. I think it's some tryhard edgelord. Start seeing someone new. The stalker sends a box of dead animals and dried leaves to my ex-GFS house, with the return address being my parents' home. Somehow gets the password to my Facebook and Gmail. Leaks all my dirty secrets to whoever my new fling is. Leaves random notes in my parents' mailbox. Tells them where I'm vacationing to without me telling anyone. Multiple attempts to get into my bank account. It's been around 8 years at this point. He still managed to get into my Gmail a few months ago. I would give anything to find who this person is.
A few years ago, back when I was in high school, I really liked this girl, and I guess we were kind of dating. But it was never like super official because I was scared my parents might find out. So really the only people who knew were her best friend and my friends. Well, her best friend kept talking about how this girl he used to date was stalking him, sending him messages all the time, and following him around. Supposedly it was because she thought he was in love with his friend, my girl. Then my girlfriend started getting texts from an iPod or something, saying really ugly, sometimes gross things about us, and how she needs to leave her guy friend alone because he wants to get back with her or something. Anyway, it got to the point where if I was at her house, we would get texts asking what I was doing there, making comments about which light in the house was on, and creepy shit like that. Eventually I found out that it was her friend the whole time. He was obsessed with her, and I guess thought that a stalker might bring them closer together, and possibly cut me out of the picture. I'm not sure. Sometimes I wonder if they were both in on it just to fuck with me. I'll probably never know.
2 years ago, at my old apartment, notes appeared on my truck and on my doorstep. Cryptic drawings and coded letters. Stops after I moved to a cabin out in the woods in bumfuck nowhere. 2 months ago, calls start in random intervals. Just silence and occasional feminine sighing and moaning. One night, after 6 calls in a row, a woman repeats my driver's license number and license plate numbers, then hangs up. Call the police and file a report.
Do you know a Gloria Stidwell?
No officer. Coming home from the bar, my house has been left open and blonde hairs found on my vanity. Pillows. The next weekend, a blonde woman about 5'9" is in my kitchen. I go ballistic and chase her out the back door, trying my best to catch and murder her. She screams.
I'm not going to hurt you.
Chased her for 2 blocks before she fled into a black truck and sped off. Still finding blonde hairs in my house and getting calls. 3 days ago, locks changed and friends moved in to assure me nothing was wrong. Calls stopped. Friend contacted me that Gloria is probably an alias because no information can be dug up. 2 days ago, received more calls with her just listening to me, then hanging up when I stopped talking. Still hear moaning, sighing, not sure which because it's always faint. Yesterday, calls me and said,
I know something you don't. I know you, and something about you that nobody else does.
I ask her what she knows, and she inhales, then hangs up. Today, awaiting more calls and still looking for a residence or way to trace her number. Police are doing fuck all to help me, and told me any action against her would be inadvisable.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember that all videos have been archived on the Odyssey page.